Good afternoon. Despondos at your service. This is a video response. Excuse me. Aggressive atheism fighting bronchitis today. And I apologize for my smoking once again. Um, where to start? Well, you make some I agree with everything that you're saying. I agree with being intolerant of racism. I agree with being intolerant of sexism and being intolerant of homophobia. However, I discovered that this is a video more so made by an atheist than for atheists, or by an atheist for atheists, rather than a video that would help enlighten people of faith. Um, Now, one of the things I figured out, several things in fact, is that if God, if there was a God, if there was in fact a God, and none of his followers, or even like what I call the shadow God, what the God shadow, in which if God is real and people are making up a different version of him, that of the nature that he is not, then in that God actually is totally benevolent, and the people never hurt anybody, never persecute anybody. That is a God that I would believe in. I am a agnostic atheist. I used to call myself just an agnostic, but in lieu of knowing that, even though to me belief is really an invalid concept, my attitude has been, I either know something to be true, know something to not be true, or don't have enough information to proceed. And while I can apply that to everything, especially the existence of a God, it doesn't address the issue of belief, irregardless of whether I think it is or not, or think it's valid or not. I only really care about knowledge. I only really care about what I know or I don't know. But since that type of thing, in accordance to other people, because they do believe, I have to be an atheist in that regard. So, because atheism has to do with belief in a God, no belief in a God, where theism is belief in a God, it's totally separate from being whether I know there's a God or I don't know there's a God. Or say, I absolutely know there's a God, then I'm a Gnostic atheist. Or a person who knows there's a God, they have a system which they're a Gnostic theist. But I firmly believe. Now, of course, since I did use the word belief there, I know that to extrapolate myself totally from the concept of belief is not really possible, because there is conjecture, even within science. There is speculation, even with things that we know. We have part of the picture, but we don't have all of the picture. Of course, that is the middle ground in which I talk about. So I guess, I have to say I believe, because that's the way to communicate that type of thought. It doesn't really have a phrase otherwise. It has a phrase that I coined, that saying I don't have enough information to proceed. But I guess that's not necessarily true, because if I do have part of the picture, I would like to proceed. I like to build upon that. But in fact, in the case of a God, we don't the fact that the conundrum exists, that we need proof, um, to actually think. Well, the fact that you have to actually seek God out to even say whether or not He's there. I mean, the fact that He doesn't exist that way is a red flag to me. That we don't have any business forming a religion around such a being. Um, but I firmly believe, once again, that if religions never persecuted anybody, never hurt anybody, um, were totally 100% benevolent, if those belief systems did none of those things, there would be there would not be any kind of atheist movement, really. I kind of correlate it with the belief of Santa Claus. Now, nobody, to my knowledge, and I'm just saying as a general rule, I'm not saying it hasn't happened at least once, but nobody has ever killed anybody in the name of Santa Claus. Nobody has ever persecuted somebody in the name of Santa Claus. Um, I guess you can say, like, some kids can make fun of another kid for not believing in Santa Claus and make them feel bad about it, you know. But the fact that we as adults know that Santa Claus isn't real, not as the way that he is in the storybooks, flying on his reindeer and giving gifts, I guess if you could say that Santa Claus is a god of some sort, then you would be an atheist of Santa Claus, but it would not be the movement that atheism has right now. Because the belief in Santa Claus does not cause any holy wars. Um, like you're saying, defensive atheism, and that is true. Um, that's the only reason I'm even an atheist. Otherwise, for me, if the belief system that I was brought up in, if it didn't hurt me like it did, if my father refused to have me have Star Wars figurines because he thought they were evil, in the name of God, in the concept of my soul getting to heaven, and scarring me for life in a lot of other ways too, I would not be an atheist today. I would still probably be a Christian, because that brought about a movement against it. Now let's say, for instance, that Santa Claus actually, or the concept of Santa Claus, where people were actually, if adults still believed in him, or even as a kid, if a kid was molested by a Santa Claus or by a guy in a Santa Claus suit, I think that kid would actually have some kind of a movement against having Santa Clauses, and there probably is something like that going on. But we don't really attribute it to Santa Claus. We attribute it to, it's just that guy, because we know better that the guy is just a guy in a Santa Claus suit. But see, we as adults don't have that luxury. People who believe in God don't have that luxury to identify that a version of a God, the God that they believed in, also people are subscribing to attributes that hurt other people, still within the Christian belief right now. I would say that a lot of, even since I've been a kid in the 80s and stuff, I've been seeing a lot of Christians from today getting more and more close to being, where a lot of that fundamentalist legalist crap has gone out the window. I don't really know of any other Christians that think, other than people like my dad, who's an old schooler, that think that Harry Potter is evil. I think people have been educated more so. In fact, if you analyze that Harry Potter is actually, in fact, a a retelling with different characters of a Messiah story. Same thing with Lord of the Rings. Same thing with Superman. Um, but what's funny is that people look in the Bible, they see the exact same motifs, but yet somehow a different version of it, or the same version of it, but with different masks of different characters that have the same moral story. They see it, they used to see that as different and evil. I mean, one example was He-Man. He-Man, as I watched the old cartoons on my on DVD here last few years, I've noticed that these are Bible stories. He-Man is Jesus, Skeletor is Satan. But when I was growing up, I mean, that was all considered evil. Even if He-Man actually was the guy in the white hat, it didn't matter. So, it's but yeah, the thing is that really it's only defensive atheism. We're aggressive because we are defending people against militant religion, militant beliefs. And it's getting to a point, well, the only thing really left is homophobia, in the Christian belief at least. That is probably one of the last bastions of it, and there's even people that are going the way of saying of starting to get rid of that. I mean, I would say Joel Osteen is one of those people. Um, so I mean, a better tomorrow for religion is coming, at least within the Christian faith. Um, but yeah, as long as religions are believing something that has no basis in reality and it's actually hurting people, the atheist movement will always be there. Otherwise, if it becomes totally 100 benevolent, then it won't. Then we won't have any reason to defend against anything. So, thank you for listening.